The main two types of handle constructions we do are full tang and hidden tang. With those two constructions, there are various different ways we get into those. So we're going to start out with just an overview of what hidden tang and full tang is. This is full tang right here. So as we bring this up a little closer, you're going to see the tang of this knife, which is the full steel from blade all the way to handle into this knife. It is exposed, and you can see it with the handle material on here. Now this is a real simple slab full tang knife. And
first type of construction, simple slab full tang.
so one piece of the handle material is just a slab, that's why we call it simple slab, and then full tang hidden right there with pins usually securing it in, okay? Now, hidden tang, and we'll get into the construction of this a little bit later, don't worry about this right now, but hidden tang is basically what you see here. There is a tang of this knife. It is a very thin piece, a lot of people call it the tail. It is a thin piece of steel along it that is completely structural with this knife hidden into this material. So you cannot see that steel in that knife anywhere into the handle. It is then brought all the way down. Sometimes it is all the way through. The way we do it, we don't do that. We'll thread it and compression fit it up here, and we'll talk about that further on. But these are the two main constructions we do, everyone. We're going to get more into depth on the different ways you can construct these two, and we'll go from there. So we just saw single slab. That's real easy. We do this over and over again, and the real benefit here is if you get a really beautiful piece of wood like this Buckeye Burl, which is what I chose here, you get the character. This is stabilized like we've talked about before, but this is also the natural color of this wood, and Buckeye Burl has some beautiful different variations of the natural wood color in here. But this is simple slab, everybody. The next thing we're going to go to is slab and bolster.
So slab and bolster, so you still have a primarily large area filled by a simple slab, but then you have this bolster area up here, which is usually a very different wood or material than what this is. So you have mesquite and carbon fiber here, great contrast. This is a pretty one with aesthetic bolster. It's not metallic, so you're not adding weight, you're not adding strength, but you're really adding a really nice complement to whatever your handle material is. So number two.
So you said that it's not adding weight. Now, are there times where you get people to ask you to add weight to that with a bolster or a pommel?
Yes. So we use brass, copper, or stainless steel, and that will really add a lot of weight here, or like in type number 3, which is with a pommel, is up here. On a really big knife, so if you have a really big knife and you want to pull the weight back to where it's balanced properly, you can add brass or copper back here, and it will really help shift that weight. You know, adding it on the bolster or the pommel will change it differently. But yeah, there are times when we'll do a big 10-inch chef's knife, and they'll say, hey, we need to add some brass back here to really help pull that weight down. Because when you have a long knife, it's a lot of point weight, and professional chefs, they'll get fatigue after a while. So this bolster, again, is cosmetic, aesthetic, however you want to think about it. Some nice pretty koa complementing that sugar maple. And typically when I do these, the grain on the handle material is going this way, and I'll turn the other material 90 degrees so it goes up and down. And it's just a nice contrast to do, something pretty to look at.
And so you did mention that if the weight of the knife is up here with the amount of steel, that usually you do something to counterbalance. But just so you guys know, with a lot of the knives that Russell does, that's not an issue. He makes these so thin to where it actually has a very great, and this one itself has a great feel and balance in the hand. So there's no need for something metallic right here in order to counterweight this. But we do have an example for that, and that's going to be next. It is a pommel and bolster.
And so, again, this is a 10-inch chef's knife with a 2.5-inch depth. So regularly, you'd have a lot of tip weight. And so you put some copper bolster and pommel back here. It really helps pull that weight back. So this is almost to the point where it's handle heavy, which, depending on what you're used for, you basically lift the knife and it will help bring it down and easier cut. So that's copper bolster and pommel with stabilized giraffe handle. So that's number 4 style of handle construction on
Before
a
you
full
put that
tang
down,
knife.
I
Yeah.
just want to show people this is a beautiful handle, everyone. This, I don't want to take too much time, but I like to call copper the rose gold in knife making, and that is just beautiful, guys. I love what Russell did here, and this is a two-tone dyed giraffe bone. Okay, enough about that. I don't want to get
Okay.
too much into that.
Okay, next one, we have a couple examples of this one because it's cool. So this is what happens when you interrupt or put an interruption in with a handle. So these two, the front piece and the back piece, are the same piece of wood. You cut it in half and you literally interrupt it with something else. So this is Purple Heart with giraffe bone, and this is Spalted Pecan, I believe, also with giraffe bone. And it just, again, it's pretty. It doesn't serve any functional purpose. Everything's stabilized, so you won't have to worry about shrinking or cracking or any of that. But it's pretty, and you can really make a nice contrast of colors. And then actually using the same interruption, but what we're talking about here is number 6, adding liners. So these have a couple different uses where it can add a really nice contrast of colors. It can also help thicken up a thinner handle material where you want to beef it up. This is a new handle material called Juma that we've been using, and it only comes right now in 1/4" sizes. So I put a couple G10 liners in there. Nice contrast, and it helps thicken it up a little bit so it fits nice in the hand.
So whenever we're given a handle material sometimes from a customer or asked for certain handle material by a customer who has big hands or wants a thicker handle, we'll use these liners right here to thicken up the handle. And just as Russell said, this handle material, Juma, only comes in a certain size. So when we want it to be on a bigger handle for bigger knives or whatever the use, we'll use these liners, not only as an aesthetic touch for different colors, but also to give the size of this handle a little bit more girth. And so it fits in the hand really well, everybody. But that is interruptions with the liners right here.
Okay, and now we're going to talk about 2 different types of hidden tang. So we went over the threaded type of hidden tang. This is a compression type of hidden tang. So again, no tang poking through at all, but you also don't have brass or copper or stainless steel on the bottom of this. This is antler. Antler is not going to hold a thread. It's an organic material. It's not going to take threading. So what you have here is literally we'll solder the guard on and create a nice little contrast with some copper and literally fit this perfectly up to it, and then drill holes through the handle material and through the tang to where all of this compresses perfectly to where when we glue it up, it's going to be seamless and beautiful.
So instead of having something down here to keep everything held on, we're using these pins as this is compressed down and drilling holes as the compression to keep this down.
Yes.
So everything here is structural as far as when it's coming out.
Correct.
Now, that will basically, it's all right. That will basically keep from this handle slipping off, correct?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, you have
awesome.
that lateral positioning with the pins. Now, one other thing I don't want to point out, Steven did a great job
Yes.
polishing that. I mean,
That polish is beautiful.
this is actually a custom that's in progress. It's not finished. It's not even heat treated yet. But look at that crown.
Yeah,
I mean,
guys.
that's gorgeous.
That's a nice one. Now, we have a couple hidden tangs here, but in the kitchen style, we have a specific hidden tang, and Russell's going to go over that one right now.
So this is a very traditional Japanese way of doing handles. We actually put pins in it still. Traditionally, you wouldn't have those. But we like the way we do things.
Traditionally, if they don't use pins, though, how does that handle stay in there?
Excellent question. So typically, they would actually burn these in. A lot of makers, even in Japan, have gone away from that and are epoxying them in now, which modern epoxy is amazing, but I still like having the lateral stability of having the pins in there. This handle is never coming off. There are several ways to do this. You can cut the handle in half and basically mill out or chisel out the area where the tang's going to take up and then glue it all back together, or you can round it out from the center the way we do with like an antler, because you're not going to cut that in half, or you can burn it out, which is a multi-step process. Do not do it in stabilized wood. I did that once. I'll never do it again. So what Steven did on this one is he actually cut it in half with a super fine saw, so you can almost not even see the seam in there. Chiseled out where the tang would take up, and then glued it all back together with wood glue, and then epoxied it back together with the pins in there. And so what you get is you get this very traditional style wah handle is what they call it, and traditionally they do have this bump in it, and it just offers a really nice grabby surface, and it's nice, it's classic, and it's really clean and elegant looking. That's a
Nice.
wah handle.
So, last thing on our hidden tangs is going to be a construction that we kind of add to certain knives. And this is mainly so that way when you have hunting knives, any kind of knife that you could possibly doing any kind of stabbing with, you need some sort of guard. And this guard is going to prevent your hand from slipping up. If you were to stab, that this hand does not slide into this blade. And that happens a lot with daggers, everyone. So there's a main reason why we came up with guards a long time ago for that purpose, right?
Yeah, and it's called a guard for a reason. It is literally guarding your hand from the front of that edge. Because you go to stab something, you go to slice something, and it slips. Without that, your hand can literally slip onto that edge, and your day is ruined. So yeah, and you'll see on a lot of fighting knives, they have guards that are full. They cover both sides, so you can't even choke up on it, which decreases its effectiveness for some things, because with this one, you can still choke up on that and use it for utility work, hunting, skinning, etc. Where if you had a bar, equal, if this were a symmetric guard,
Okay.
you couldn't choke up on that. It
Right.
would literally be sticking up in your hand, very uncomfortable. So I like my hidden tang guards to be nice and low, almost to the point where there's no gap between the tang and the top of that guard. I like it. It's comfortable, and it's also super functional for either use.
And just before we wrap up this video, guys, to give you kind of to touch y'all on our guards here, there's no set of already pre-made, pre-drilled guards that we buy and we just pick out and just slap onto a knife. Each one of these guards on any knife that it's made for is specifically made for that knife. It's never duplicated in any kind of series. So this started out as a piece of just straight brass. We mill it out or file it out, whatever we do to get our knife in there. There's multiple ways to do it. And we fit this guard, design it, shape it specifically for this knife. You will not find this guard on any other knife that we sell or anyone else sells, because someone handmade this guard. So on each knife, whether it be a guard just for the front or all the way to the back, both, either way, when they're made for these knives, it is one piece custom made for that specific knife, guys. And that's what adds a lot of value to some of our hidden tang knives here, because you're not going to find this handle construction, this handle material on one knife anywhere else the same way we do it. That's just one of the artisan things that we do.